All right, for this video, you see we're jumping to chapter 4 here. We're going to graph lines, but we're going to do it a second method where we're going to use the slope-intercept form. Okay, I guess right before Thanksgiving, you guys had a quiz. When you graph lines, you only used XY charts. And usually for the XY charts, we said we want it in this form. You wanted Y by itself. Well, this is what's called slope-intercept form. So you can fill this out in your note sheet. It's Y equals MX plus B. Now you're going to see when it's graphing and it's in this form, it's actually going to be a lot easier and a lot more time efficient than making up an XY chart. Okay, now what do these M and B mean? Well, M is, again, that's the slope. We just found the slope with any 2 points on the line, whether it's the graphical method or using the algebraic method. And then the B, the value that's added or subtracted on, this is the y-intercept. Okay, if it's positive, then it hits the y-axis on the positive side. If it's negative, then you go down from the origin. But it hits the y-axis. All right, now the reason why I say, actually, let's say why this is B. We say this is B because this is where we begin our graph. We're going to start the line by plotting it at this first point. This is where we begin. And M, why do we say that's M? Why can't we say it's S for slope? Well, the reason why we say it's M, this is how we move point to point on the line. Okay, so that's why we use M and we use B. Now, for all of these ones in this first video, they're already going to be in slope-intercept form, meaning Y is going to be by itself. There's 6 problems on this. I think there's three sheets. We're going to go over, I guess, probably like 3 out of the 6, and the next 3 we'll go over at the beginning of class tomorrow. Okay, let's look at the first one. You can see it's in slope-intercept form. Y is by itself. Now, let's identify what the slope is and identify what the y-intercept is. Okay, for number 1, we say this is the number that's multiplying x. That's the 2. That's the slope. Now, it's very important for slope. Let's write all of the slopes as a fraction because remember we did rise over run. So this is 2 over 1. Okay, and the b value is this right here. Don't forget the negative before it. It's -3. All right, now very easy. Going to be very easy here. I'm going to start with b, right? This is where we begin our graph. So this -3 is the y-intercept. So from the origin, I just go down 1, 2, 3, and I plot that first point right there. Okay, you can see it right there. So I'll put a little check mark. I use the b value. Now I'm going to use this. Now if it's 2 over 1, what that means is, remember, it's rise over run. That means, I'm going to put this here, 2 over 1. This means I'm going to go up 2 units, and then since this 1 is positive, I go to the right 1. Okay, so let's use the arrow and I'm starting from this point, not the origin. So I go up 1, 2 to the right 1. So I'm going to have a point right there. So right here. Let's say I want another one. Well, I do the same thing. I go up 1, 2 to the right 1. I'm going to have a point right there. Okay, if I wanted to go the other way, well, I could do this. I just reverse the process. I go down 2 to the left 1, so it matches up with the other 3 points. So I plot a point there, down 2 to the left 1. And you really don't do any math. You don't plug in any numbers. You don't do any computations. You just use B, the y-intercept, and then off of that, you just use rise over run to move from point to point on the line. Okay, and you can also see the slope is +2, so that's why this line goes up left to right. All right. Okay, let's do number 2. Okay, number 2, it's already in slope-intercept form for me. The b value, don't forget the negative before, that's -1. Good thing about the slope, it's already written as a fraction. It's 1 over 2. All right, so since the b value, I always begin with the b value, right? That's why it begins with b. So I go -1. Remember, it's on the x-axis. Excuse me, it's on the y-axis. That's actually the most common mistake. Some students will graph this, but that's on the x-axis. I'm going to go down 1. That's the first point I'm going to plot right there at -1 on the y-axis. Okay, so put a check mark. I did B. Now, the slope was 1 over 2. What that means is I'm going to go up 1 unit, and then this is the run. Since that's +2, I go to the right 2 units. And that's according to the b value. So I'm going to go up 1 to the right 2, and right there I'm going to get my second point. There it is. And I just keep doing the same thing. So from here I can go up 1 to the right 2, and there's the third point. So go up 1 to the right 2, and there it is. Okay, notice how I had a positive slope of 1/2, so that's why when I connect these points, the line goes up, left to right. And that's it. Much quicker than an XY chart. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to the next page. All right, the next page, I'm going to skip number 3, and I'm going to do number 4. And this will be the last one that I do. So 3, 5, and 6 is what we'll do tomorrow in class, very first thing. All right, same process. Now, if you notice here, it's just negative 1/2 x. Whatever number multiplies x is the slope, so it's going to be negative 1/2. Here's the one thing that's different than the first two I did. I noticed that this is a negative, so my line should go down left to right. It should look like this. Without even plotting any points, it should go down left to right. If it doesn't, then I know I did something wrong. Now, the one thing that's a little bit different here, the b value, see how there's nothing added on? It's almost like saying plus 0. That's kind of redundant. You wouldn't add 0 because it does nothing. So what this tells me is my b value here is 0. So this is going to start, I go to 0 on the y-axis, which is really the origin. So this one's going to start at the origin. All right, so there's my first point, put a little check mark. So I got the b value. Now negative 1/2. Now this sometimes could be a little tricky. Notice how I put negative 1 in the top. When I put negative 1 in the top, that means I go down 1 unit. This 2 is still positive, so I go to the right 2. Do not make both of them negative, because if you make both of them negative, then the negatives cancel out, and actually the slope is 1/2, not negative 1/2. Okay, so let's use the arrow. So I'm just going to follow what I did. I'm going to go down 1, and then I go to the right 2. 1, 2. So there's my second point right there. So go down 1 to the right 2, and it's right here. Okay, let's do another point. Same thing, I keep it consistent. I go down 1 to the right, 1, 2. There's my third point right there. So down 1 to the right 2. Now let's say I want to go the other direction. I'm going to rewrite this. It's very important how you write the slope when there's a negative. Either put the negative up top or put the negative in the bottom. I'm going to put the negative in the bottom now. I'm going to put 1 over negative 2. When I look at it this way, now I'm going to go up 1, and then since this is negative right here, I go to the left 2. So I just reverse the process. So let's say you start here. This means you go up 1 to the left 2, up 1 to the left 2. I'm going to go up 1 to the left, 1, 2. So there's another point if I go the other direction. So up 1 to the left 2. It's right here. Okay? So really what I emphasized here, well, let's connect it. My line goes down left to right because the slope is negative. Just make sure this is what you don't want to do. Here's a common mistake. Don't do this, negative 1 over negative 2. Because that doesn't equal negative 1/2. That doesn't equal negative 1/2. It equals 1/2. You don't want to do this. So either put the negative up top or put the negative down low. All right, so that's pretty much it. You can see a lot easier graphing in slope-intercept form by using B and using M than making an XY chart.